Hello, my thoughtful teenagers, and welcome to another episode of Grade 10 Maths with me, Miss Lambert. We're still on the topic of algebra, and today we will be wrapping up indices. Now, let's take a look once again at the definition for indices. It says here that indice or the law of indice enables expression of power to be manipulated and written in a very short form. Now, when we use indices, index, or a power, it refers to that small floating number that appears. Now, if we take a look at the bottom here, we are going to see a representation of an index. We have our base and we also have the power. We would have already completed the multiplication, division, power to power, and the zero law. So in this lesson, we are going to wrap up by looking at the negative and the fractional law of indices. Let's get right into the negative law. Now, if you can recall, in our last lesson, I mentioned that you must know keenly the first three laws of indices, since all other laws are built on those laws. So let's look at what the negative law or the fifth law of indices says. Here it is. It says a negative index can be expressed as positive by writing a raised to the negative m power as a fraction, which give us 1 over a to the m. Now, how is that possible? I'm pretty sure that is the question you're asking yourself. Now, let's look at the example. Here you can see that 5 raised to the third power is divided by 5 raised to the fifth power. And our division or second law of indices say that once our bases are the same, we subtract our index. So that is what we did in the second step. We have 5 raised to the 3 minus 5. Those are our powers. And when we compute that, taking into consideration our rules for directed numbers, we are going to end up with 5 raised to the negative 2 power. And remember we said earlier that it is simple to change an index from negative to positive. So you can see that when we change from a negative to a positive, we have 1 over 5 raised to the second power, or you might say 5 square. So whenever we have a negative index, in common terms, you might hear a person say you can take it downstairs to make it positive. So that is what happened right here. We would have changed from 5 raised to the negative 2 power to 1 over 5 square. Now, for the sixth and final law of index that we will be focusing on, it is the fractional law. And this is one of my favorite laws. It says that the nth root of a number is represented as the number raised to the power of 1 divided by n. Therefore, if we have b raised to the 1 over n, that can be written as the root of b raised to the first power. Now, I would like to break this down for you a little bit more. What I often say is that when you have a fractional index, it is the denominated root of the base raised to the numerated power. Yes, I'm going to say that again because it does sound a little bit like gibberish. So whenever you have an index raised to a fractional power, it is the denominated root of the base raised to the numerated power. So you're going to see right here, I showed you how we basically moved from one thing to the next. So we have b raised to the 1 over n. And when that is worked out or simplified using our sixth or fractional law of index, we have the nth root of b raised to the first power. So let's take a look at an example that will help us to better understand the fractional law. Here we have 25 that is then raised to the half power, or 25 to the half. Now remember I said we always find the denominated root of our base raised to the numerated power. So here you're going to see we have the root of, or the squared root of, 25 raised to the first power. And 25 raised to the first power is basically 25, because 25 is appearing only once in this case. So you have the root of 25, and when you work that out, you are going to get 5. So remember, my thoughtful teenagers, at all time, when you're dealing with the fractional law of indices, it is always the denominated root of the base raised to the numerated power, despite what those numbers are. So let's wrap up and recap on our lesson for today. Now, we said that the law of indices enables us to express powers more efficiently. Additionally, in this lesson, we looked at the negative law. It says that anytime we have a base raised to a negative power, we can make that positive by, yes, you would have guessed right, taking it downstairs. So in order to take it downstairs, we make it into a fraction, as you can see here. And the final law that we were focusing on is the fractional law. And it says that when a base is raised to a fraction, we find the denominated root of the base raised to the numerated power, which is what you're going to see right here. So I want you, my thoughtful teenagers, to be effective when solving indices. In order to do that, this is what I would like you to do for me. We are going to reference Mathematics A Complete Course with CXC Question Volume 1. You turn to page 280, you're going to find exercise 6S. And there, I want you to try questions 71 to 105. Now, those will basically cover the two laws of indices that we just reviewed. But in order for you to test your knowledge on all 6 of the laws that we would have went through, I want you to do the additional practice questions that you can find on page 282, exercise 60. Now, these are a little bit more challenging, but if you remember carefully all of your laws and you apply them correctly, you will be able to seamlessly complete all of the exercises that you can find on page 282 under exercise 6T. So there you have it, my thoughtful teenagers. Not only as we wrapped up this lesson, we would have completed the laws of indices. Now that you know all 6 of the laws of indices, you will be able to be more effective in solving problems involving laws of indices. I would like to thank you for being here with me on this episode, and please practice, practice, practice by doing your homework. Please be sure to join me here for another episode of Grade 10 Maths. Bye bye.